Folklore Suantraí Íosa, you're very welcome as we gather to celebrate the readings for tomorrow, Monday, the 17th of January. When I was studying scripture in the 1970s, it was one of the most controversial elements was what was called the ban or the cherem in sacred scripture, in which the Lord decreed that the enemy should be wiped out. We were all horrified by this, that the idea was you were to take no prisoners. You were to wipe out the enemy. It was a horrific thing, and at that time, we had no solution to why God would ask for such a dreadful thing. However, in my life's experience, having watched so many wars in different areas, I have a firm suspicion that wars are often motivated by economic desires for wealth, such as the Iraqis invading Kuwait and the European nations getting involved in an alliance to stop him. And people would say, were they after the oil as well? After that, I was studying, because history is my hobby, the wars of Julius Caesar. And I came across this paragraph in the history books, which spoke about how Caesar had financed his entire political campaign through the sale of slaves from Gaul. His prisoners became slaves and he sold them. In fact, he did it so much, he depressed the slave market in Rome. He flooded the slave market and the economy of the slave market went down. All of a sudden, I had an insight into the cherem. If you have to kill your prisoners, there's no economic advantage for a king in going to war. There's no motivation to increase your wealth by attacking vulnerable nations around you, enslaving them and selling them off. The booty went to the soldiers. The slaves went to the pockets of the kings and the commanders. So we can see the cherem in an entirely different way, that God hates war. And he has a desire that those who are in his service would gain no economic advantage from going to war. And we see King Saul taking prisoners. And the reason, of course, he took prisoners was to sell them as slaves and to increase his personal wealth. God is displeased with him, and God wishes to set him aside. And again, in the Psalm 50, how can you recite my commandments and take my covenant on your lips, you who despise my law and throw your words, my words, to the winds? Last week we were talking about the prophet Samuel, that he let no word of the Lord fall to the ground. He was faithful to God. We see in Saul a politician who chooses to increase his personal wealth and so is displeasing to God. We also come tomorrow in the gospel to fasting, and Jesus says the time will come for the bridegroom to be taken away from them, and on that day they will fast. And Thursday in Ireland is called Deir Dín, which means between the fasts, because Wednesday is on Cadín, the first fast, and Friday is on Lo'ina, the great fast, the day of the great fast. And fasting is part of what Christians are called to do. But, and this is important, Jesus says to us in the Sermon on the Mount, don't let anybody know you're fasting. Let it be a secret. Put on your makeup and your aftershave and everything else and make it look like you're rejoicing. Don't be going on saying, oh, I'm fasting today. I'm being faithful to God. No, rejoice when you fast because you're giving a gift of love to God. You're saying, God, I'd love to have a steak today, or I'd love to have fish today, or whatever it is you love. And you say, Lord, instead of that, I'll have something else. Nobody will know, but you will know, my Lord, that I love you, and I'm doing this because I love you, and I'm doing it in powerful intercession. And during the coming week, you and I will look in these little talks at the nature of fasting and how we can use it creatively for the coming of the kingdom, how we can use it as powerful intercession in our families and in our communities, our pueblos, our parishes. So with thoughts such as these, that we're going to begin a journey into the exploration of holiness through fasting in this week. Let us go to our beds and let us wake in the morning with the praise of God on our hearts and on our lips. Agus gemana dia ela kochtach shiv, ahar mak agus spirit mev. Amen. By the way, behind me, a battle scene and slavery. We must never, ever, if we go to war, take economic advantage from it. The Lord detests such a thing. Slán agus benach. Slán go fóill.